You're listening to Himalayan Adventure by Vaile. Chapter 9.
Zaw, sitting in the driver's seat of the white car parked outside Burnmaster's hotel, turned the ignition again and heard the engine crank over with a little more gusto than it had been earlier. Encouraged, he gave it another go, and after sputtering once, the old engine roared to life. The teenage yeti glanced across at Pemba with a look of satisfaction. "Wasn't so hard after all," he said. "Beginner's luck," muttered the human boy, and then more loudly, "Whatever you do, don't touch anything, just let it run for a while to warm up." "Seeing as I started it, I should be allowed to drive it," Zaw declared. Pemba raised an eyebrow. "Paws up, who thinks Zaw should drive?" he asked. Zaw was the only one who raised his furry hand over his head. Abby just shook her head, and there was no way Pemba was going to vote for the rambunctious yeti. Zaw looked glum. "Who said anything about this being a democracy anyway?" he mumbled. "We should take turns." "Maybe in the future," Pemba replied, and quickly moved the conversation to a new topic. "Look, I've been thinking about what we should do, given that we are having car problems." "We're not having car problems anymore," observed Zaw, "thanks to yours truly." "A car that won't start in the morning is no use to us," said Abby. "It's just a matter of time before Burnmaster takes off somewhere and we lose him for good." "We may have lost him for good already," Zaw said. "I don't think so," replied Abby. "He and his friends didn't take any bags with them when they got in the taxi, so they'll be coming back to the hotel." "So what do we do?" asked Zaw. "Get a new car. The council would probably give us enough money to buy one if we asked," Pemba replied with a nod. "But I've got a better idea." "Which is?" asked Abby. "I think I should try and join Burnmaster's group," Pemba replied. "That way, wherever they go, I'll be right there with them. It will be impossible for me to lose them." This new plan sounded like music to Zaw's ears. "Fantastic," he exclaimed. "I love this plan. You can stay here and keep an eye on Burnmaster and his companions, and I'll head back to Shangri-La with Abby." Clapping his friend on the shoulder, he said with mock sincerity, "I think it's very commendable of you to take on this responsibility all by yourself, and I respect you for it." "Nice try, fur ball," Pemba replied. "But what I had in mind was, I join Burnmaster's group while you and Abby continue to follow." Zaw was shaking his head. "What's the difference between your plan and what we are doing now?" he asked, exasperated. "Except that you will get to sleep in a hotel with Burnmaster's group while Abby and me are stuck roughing it in this crummy car. Sounds to me like you're just trying to improve your situation at our expense." "Just chillax, Zaw," his sister said. She loved to use words that she learned while watching American television programs on the internet. "I'm sure Pemba has a good reason for suggesting that we freeze our furry butts off in this car while he moves into a hotel." "Right, Pemba." She opened her crystal blue eyes and gave him a very direct stare. Pemba definitely detected that note of sarcasm and said, "The reason is that I can't keep Burnmaster and his group out of trouble all by myself. I need both of your help. So the best thing to do is for me to join their group and give you constant updates on their location. I'll just find excuses to sneak out of earshot and then call you guys on the sat phone. It'll be much easier than hoping this car starts every time Burnmaster leaves the hotel and trying to chase them through Kathmandu's traffic." Zaw was inclined to agree, but he had the uncomfortable feeling that he had just drawn the short straw. "I guess," he grumbled, "but how are you going to convince Burnmaster to let you join his group?" Pemba shrugged. "I dunno," he said. "I'll offer to be their guide or something." "All foreigners can use a guide in Nepal, right?" This time Abby shrugged her shoulders. "You'll find out when you ask them," she replied. Sometime later, the taxi carrying Burnmaster and his group stopped in front of the hotel and let its passengers out. "They're back," Abby said, giving the two boys seats a prod with her foot. Pemba watched them go into the hotel and wondered if now was a good time to put his plan into action. Despite his offhand reply to the yetis that he would be able to convince Burnmaster to take him on as a guide, he wasn't at all sure that his offer would be accepted. Pemba had scant information about Burnmaster, but it seemed like the South African man had been to Nepal before and knew his way around. It was entirely possible that he didn't need a guide, and even if he did, he may be unwilling to put his trust in a complete stranger. The trick, Pemba decided, was to find the proper moment to introduce himself. He watched Burnmaster and company hurry into the hotel and decided that now wasn't the right time. When they emerged 15 minutes later, carrying their rucksacks, he knew he had made the right choice. "Looks like they're on the move again," he said. He had shifted back into the driver's seat and Zaw was in the back with his sister. This time the engine was warm and the car started easily. He drifted into the traffic and followed the taxi at a safe distance. They traveled north for half an hour, and it was only when the taxi dropped its passengers off at the bus stop that Pemba understood what their intentions were. "I think they're heading into the mountains," he said. The bus stop was a sprawling, chaotic affair with dozens of buses parked or milling around the area like a herd of trumpeting elephants. From here a traveler could catch a bus to almost anywhere in Nepal. "Had to happen sometime," replied Abby. "Not much point looking for yetis in the middle of Kathmandu." "Well, as a matter of fact there is," Zaw said. "But Burnmaster doesn't know that, and that is the way we want to keep it," murmured Abby. "You got that right," Zaw said. "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he doesn't exist. If the devil can do it, so can the yeti." "I don't think copying the devil's plans is a good idea," Pemba said. "We're not copying the evil parts of his plans," Abby explained, "just the good parts." Pemba watched Burnmaster and his companions collect their rucksacks from the trunk of the taxi, and he suddenly had an idea. He unbuckled his seatbelt and checked his appearance in the small rear-view mirror. "What are you doing?" asked Abby. "I think this is the opportunity we've been waiting for," Pemba answered. "What are you talking about?" asked Abby. "What opportunity?" Abby watched Pemba lick his fingers and carefully smoothed the sides of his hair back. "Yuwa," she cried out. "Is that how all human boys style their hair?" Pemba ignored her. "Burnmaster and his group are obviously going to catch a bus," he explained, "so I'm going to get on the same bus and convince them to let me join their group. What better opportunity will there be than during a long bus ride through the mountains?" "They might all fall asleep," said Abby. "What will you do then?" "That's true," Zaw agreed. "Your conversation can sometimes be so boring that you put me to sleep." "Who can fall asleep looking at Nepal's beautiful mountains?" asked Pemba. "Wait a minute," said Zaw. "If you're on the bus, what are we going to do?" Pemba hadn't thought that far ahead. "I guess you'll have to follow in this car," he replied. "You certainly can't catch the bus with me." "Yeehar," the high-spirited yeti howled. He punched the air exultantly. "And that means I'm driving, right?" he exclaimed. "Go on, say it, say it." Pemba conceded that Zaw would have to drive if their little group was to stay together. "But please promise me you'll be careful," he admonished. "And promise me too," added Abby, "because I'll be right here in the car with you." Pemba left the taxi to follow Burnmaster and company. It was easy for the 15-year-old Nepalese boy to blend into the crowds and stay very close to his targets without their realizing that they were being followed. This was the first time he had gotten close to the islander boys and the blonde-haired girl, and he wondered how they were related to Burnmaster. They just didn't seem to fit into the picture. Pemba passed close enough to the group to pick their pockets if he wanted to. Now he was just behind the girl, moving to the left. He got a clear look at her face and saw that she was probably about the same age as him and pretty. He watched her for a few moments, curious. He had met lots of blue-eyed Caucasians before. There were some living in Shangri-La, but most of them were adults. He rarely met kids his own age or approximately his own age from the Western world. He wondered which country she came from. There was something a little haughty in her gait. She seemed to bounce along on the balls of her feet, and Pemba wondered what she thought of his country and its people. Burnmaster queued up to buy bus tickets, and Pemba slipped back into a crowd of people waiting nearby. He was too far away to read the tickets in Burnmaster's hands, but the sign above the ticket office was clear: Bus to Shabrubesi. Consulting the bus timetable on display, he saw that the next bus would leave in about 1 hour. When Burnmaster had left the ticket stall, Pemba bought a ticket. Then he darted back to the car to tell the yetis what was happening. Zaw was already lounging back in the driver's seat. Pemba was worried about the yeti's ability to negotiate the winding mountain passes on the way to Shabrubesi. "Are you sure you can handle it?" he asked. "The roads are pretty rough up that way." The yeti yawned and looked complacent. "Don't worry about me. Everything will be fine," he replied. "I'll keep an eye on him," said Abby. Her face was well concealed by the hood of her jacket and a pair of large, dark sunglasses. Pemba wished them goodbye and good luck, then hurried back to the bus stop. An hour later the bus departed, carrying Burnmaster, Isabelle, Laheeti, Twigger, Gulbenkian, and Pemba. A little white car sped along after it. On the other side of Kathmandu Valley, the GXs were seated in an email cafe while Maine logged into www.hotmail.com and checked the inbox. The counter that usually read 0 now read 1. Maine opened the message and started reading, with his brothers looking over his shoulder. The message read like this: To gorillaman123@hotmail.com, thanks for your email. Your mum and I had been wondering how you were going. It's great to hear that you all landed safely, but I'm sorry about your tooth problem. It's definitely important that you get the tooth sorted out as fast as possible. As for the professor that can help you, in my opinion you should try and meet her in one of her other offices. Waiting around in Kathmandu might take a long time. By the way, you might like to know that some family friends are traveling in the same area as you are. They are a group of 5, a South African man named Tom, a tall islander man named Gulbenkian, and 3 young people, one of whom is fairly famous. The South African has been to Kathmandu before and might be able to help you see the professor. If you meet the group, you might like to join their party. I think you will get along with them quite well. I am told they have similar interests as yourselves. Stay in touch, Dad. It took them a while to finish reading the email because they had to sound out the letters one at a time. Their efforts drew some attention from people sitting nearby, but a few hard stares encouraged the sticky beaks to mind their own business. Maine was the first to finish reading, and he translated it into North Korean for his brothers. I guess that settles it, Mohawk said. We head to Langtang National Park. Flattop still looked a bit peeved that a full frontal assault on the university was now not an option. Who are the group of 5 people that we should watch out for? He asked. Not sure, replied Mohawk, but the email says they have similar interests as yourselves. That means they must also be looking for the tooth. And that line about the South African being able to help us see the professor must mean that he knows Nikki Zipster, added Maine. If the group knows about the tooth and knows Nikki Zipster, then they might also know where she is, Flattop suggested. Perhaps we should look for the group before going to Langtang. Negative, Mohawk replied. Our orders are clear. We head to Langtang, but if we happen to meet up with the group on the way, we should join them and find out what they know about Nikki Zipster and the tooth. Maine smiled inwardly and agreed. It looked like they would be staying in Nepal for a while yet. He asked the Nepalese boy who ran the email cafe about how to get to Langtang National Park, and as fate would have it, he was advised to catch a bus to a town called Shabrubesi from the same bus stop that Burnmaster and Pemba departed from only minutes earlier. After returning to their hotel to collect their gear, the GXs caught a taxi to the bus stop. There, they purchased tickets and boarded a bus to Shabrubesi. Just as Maine was settling back comfortably in his seat, did he realize that they had forgotten to look up the meaning of liquidate the GXs on the internet. But not to worry, he thought to himself. There's no hurry. We'll be in Nepal for a while yet. I'll do it the next time we see an internet cafe. Having little experience of the world and no experience of Nepal, it didn't occur to the big-hearted GX that there wouldn't be any internet cafes in Shabrubesi or the mountains of Langtang National Park. In fact, if he'd thought about it more carefully, he might have realized that there probably wouldn't be any more opportunities to use the internet during this mission, and the next time he would get anywhere near a computer would be when he and his brothers arrived back into the hands of their masters in North Korea.
That is the end of this chapter. To listen to the next chapter on YouTube or to purchase the digital ebook from Amazon, see the links in the description.